So today is the 26th of March, and this is the public session. So a few rules. If you want to volunteer, you can talk to me about that afterwards. And try not to, if you can, don't promote other organizations or other systems or other books or something like that, because it takes too much of our time when we get off the Venus Project. I want to stick on this topic. No conspiracy theories. That also takes too much time. And this place is not really debate. We're not here to fight each other, and I'm not here to convince you about anything. I'm here to assist you. And the way you can assist me is to try to find the essence of what it is you're asking me. Try to summarize it as much as possible. And I usually get it because I've heard similar questions for many years. So it's not a problem. So a short story about how I got into the Venus Project. I also saw the Zeitgeist movies. And in these movies, I saw Jacque Fresco. And I learned an important lesson, which I remind myself of, that I didn't like his part in these Zeitgeist movies because I couldn't understand what he was talking about. Just like Michael mentioned, 20 years ago, if you would have approached me, you would say I'm crazy. And I couldn't understand Jacque Fresco as well. But I started to have a discussion with somebody, and I couldn't answer his questions. I brought up the Venus Project, and he started asking me a million questions. I said, I have no idea. So I went to YouTube, I watched everything. I went to their homepage, I bought their books and their CDs, and I just sat and listened to them over and over again. And then I started to create events using Meetup in Stockholm, where I would sit and talk about this subject because I couldn't find anybody in my surrounding that wanted to have a discussion. And 2000, I think it was 14, I went and met Jacque and Roxanne, and they had their tour. But I was really interested in getting access to more material. I had listened to everything. It was finished. I had nothing more. And I told them that, I told Roxanne, I will transcribe your old lectures if you give me access to them. And that's what she did. She started giving me, and I did my job, and I got more and more lectures. Later on, they contacted me and said, do you want to become a regional coordinator for Sweden? I said, okay, that's fine. I went through a 12-week educational program. And then later on, they asked me to join the Social Cyberneering Education Project. And this is, let's say, a way of trying to really certify that this person knows this subject and he can try to assist other people to learn about it. And I'm doing this right now, but I'm not finished yet. And you're not really ever finished with this subject. There's so much to learn. But based on my experience, the answers I give, I can give reference for everything I'm talking about back to the Venus Project. I don't take things just out of random. This has been many years of listening to Jacque. That's how I reach these conclusions when I'm talking to you. So for this session, usually I have a little bit, a small presentation of some topic that I want to talk about. But for today, I don't have anything special. So what we're going to have today is that if you have any questions regarding the Venus Project, something that is not clear, this is the appropriate time to ask your questions and try to phrase it, summarize what it is you want to ask. So it's open now if anybody has a question. Yes, David.
Well, I would like for the persons that have a little time on TVP, just a little more knowledge, and maybe for the newcomers too, I think it's important. How can we deal with people that criticize TVP because it has not done nothing in the last 10, 20, 30 years? I don't know. They point TVP that is not doing anything. Even now, or most recently, because of Jacque's death, there have been no advances, and they criticize. Sometimes when I hear or I read them in Facebook, I don't pay attention because I think I have a little bit more understanding of it. But I would like your approach, and maybe we can collide in many things.
Yeah. Can I ask you, what are your thoughts regarding when somebody says, well, you guys haven't done anything? Do you have any thoughts about that yourself, David?
Well, yes. Most of the time, I am, well, let's start how it should be. Once I got a little bit of knowledge about TVP, I realized that this project is for the long run. It's not something that can be done in a year, 5, 10, 20 years. I think it will take a little bit more time because it's a huge project that involves too many things. So you cannot see it that something that's going to be it's going to become a reality fast enough or in a short term. No, there are too many variables involved that can accelerate or make it more slow the progress of the project. One of them, of course, is money. It's not the only thing, but it's one of the most important within this social system we all live. And I get upset when I see all the criticism on different people that not have the correct knowledge about what big TVP is. So let's say I have that shield, you know, I do understand that this is for a long run, and I know I have to learn, and most of us here have there's an education time frame, let's call it, that we all have to go through. But there are many people that criticize with not correct information. So maybe you can help a little bit on that.
Yeah. Okay, that's a great way of phrasing it. First off, I would like to say this, that when you meet people that criticize, just like Michael, this example Michael gave to me is very important with that. If you would have talked to him 20 years ago, you wouldn't get it. And the same with me. So that's when somebody doesn't get it, I remind myself that I was in this person's shoes. And of course it doesn't make sense, because the whole world, everything that we almost do here doesn't make sense. It goes in the opposite direction from what people are used to or have been brought up to think what would be appropriate. So you have to re-educate them about everything. So I expect them not to accept what I'm talking about. That's my first attitude. If I go and hold a presentation for 20 random people, my expectation is when I go there, if anybody gets it, that's great. I remember I was holding a lecture in Sweden for very old people, very old and rich people. And don't ask me how I got in there, but the person that controlled who gets invited, she liked the Venus Project, and she invited me. And what can you expect? They are profitable people in this system. They have their old values, which the world has reinforced them. So I wasn't going in there with, I'm going to sell this and these people are going to send us billions. I'm just, if they don't boo me out of here, I'm happy. That was my attitude. So that's the attitude to have. And the second part is that when we feel that we get upset, I would say this is the problem, is that you're not sure about what this is. When you become confident in understanding the Venus Project, then to me, it is like going back in time and sitting with a bunch of people and you say, in the future, man will fly. And they say, never. If you really understand, if you were, you really worked on airplanes and you were able to create them, but at that time, you don't have the tools, so you can't create for some reason. When they put you down, you say, it's okay. I understand that it doesn't get to you, but I know the fundamentals of this. And you have to do more than just criticize it in this manner. You have to demonstrate to me how come this and this won't work. So you're not easily swayed. It becomes, as Jacque says, you know, in the beginning, the Venus project, it is thin lines that is holding you to this. And the world has titanium steel drawing you back. But the more you stick, the more the old titanium becomes a thin line and the Venus project becomes like titanium. It doesn't budge, but for the right reasons. And that's why I say, don't be a believer in this. Then you're off, because tomorrow you will believe in something else. But when you understand what this is about, then it becomes like titanium and you won't budge that easily. They really have to convince you by being referential, by demonstrating. For example, if you give people everything in a resource-based economy, now there's a big problem, okay? Then you say, I see your reference, for example. But if you say in today's society, well, there was a city and they gave them everything and now they're like monkeys, they went crazy. You see, that is not enough because they were not brought up to be given everything suddenly. They had old values. There's a lot of problems with just that simple statement. So you don't budge as easily the more you learn about it. That's how but the most important part is that you have to have the attitude that you didn't get it in the beginning, or you wouldn't have gotten it if I came to you when you were 20-year-old David and you were going partying and I say, hey, David, screw that. Let's talk about this instead. I say, no, I'm out. I'm going out. Okay. All right. I hope that helps, David. Okay. So,
yeah, that was one of the big is that you have to learn for yourself, and that's the same for everyone.
Yeah.
So their learning is up to them just as yours is up to you.
Yeah. For me, the people that stick with the Venus project are people, now I'm really describing myself, I'm projecting, is that you have to do this for yourself. You enjoy learning, but if you're here with number one priority is to convince others and to save the world, I think you're going to go, it's going to be very painful for you to go through this. You have to enjoy the journey of learning about something that is more appropriate. And then an important person in your life comes and says, well, that's full of shit. Why are you wasting your time on this? I thought you were smart. And you say, that's fine. I respect you in those areas, but in this area, you're lacking information. I would suggest that you watch a couple of videos and then give me your opinion, but don't draw these fast conclusions. I was on a session with a person, there were many people, and it was a person that invited me, and these people I would say are highly into conspiracy. And I don't talk. It's only here that I talk a lot. But if I go to other places, I like to listen and see what are they talking about. And throughout this session, they were talking about how we are open-minded. You know, our group is different because we're open-minded people. And the person that is invited me, he was constantly pushing the Venus project because he enjoys what I'm talking about and all of these things. And then he sent a link. And these open-minded people, imagine looking at somebody's work that he spent his entire life on, just reading 2 lines and seeing a circular city. They said, you know, this is the end of humanity. This is what the project blah, blah, blah is about, to reduce population. And these are dangerous ways. This is a dangerous way of looking at things. So the next time you see a poster and it says, this person raped 10 women caught by the police, then you should say this. You say, this poster says this happened. Do I know this happened? I don't know. This is what they're telling me, but I don't have enough information to make a judgment about this person. I don't have enough information. So I don't know what happened. This is what they are telling me. So don't put your beliefs and your thoughts immediately into when somebody speaks. Same here. You have to go and do your research regarding the Venus Project. It isn't enough to just listen to me. You have to be convinced by the material. And try to find problems with what Jacque is saying, which is very difficult because he doesn't talk about one thing. He's in so many different areas. So you have to learn how he views all of these different areas. It is easy to criticize when a person talks about one specific area, because you can say you missed 10 things. You're talking about sustainability, but you're not talking about the economic system. But Jacque goes into all of these areas. And if you start criticizing him, say, hey, maybe I missed 10 other areas, which he goes into that explains this view. Hey, Gerald, do you have a microphone? It's fine if you don't, just so I want to know. If you have any questions, Gerald, this is an open session about the Venus Project. If you have any questions, you can just post them in the chat. And if you guys have, something that is clear, sometimes it can become even clearer if you ask another person's, how do they view that? And it can help. So let me know if you have any more questions.
Well, I have something I could share that I feel has helped me expand my understanding, and I think would help a lot of people within the project, because I was on board with all of this from the get-go, and it's like you, I did all of this research and ordered the CDs and listened to all this, but then I wasn't just with the Venus Project. I ended up learning stuff that is beyond its purview. But one of the important things is that I feel like a lot of these documentaries and things have a really negative twist and perspective on the concept of money, which again, I was very much, I understood what it was saying. It's not, the be all end all. It's, not really what people fundamentally need. But what I've learned is nothing has built-in meaning. The only meanings that things have are what people give them. So if you're defining something as negatively, then that's how you're going to experience it. So with the concept of money, if you're saying that it's a negative thing and then you're using it, that makes you think that you're doing something negative. And it's the same, with other people. If you're implying that what they're doing is negative, they're not really going to like you for that. So, and it's not like nothing is fundamentally 100% negative, positive, neutral. It's all of those things from different perspectives. So ultimately, it's how you define something. And money, like anything else, like technology or something, can be used positively, negatively. I mean, again, as I see it, it's going to disappear eventually. We're not going to need it eventually. So, I'm on board with this project still, but kind of the way that people are spinning, oh, money's negative and it's the root of all evil. That's not really true either. But, it seems hypocritical when people say stuff like that and then they say, oh, by the way, we need money. So it's kind of it's a tricky subject for some people, but that's kind of what I've learned.
Yeah, I would say that the way I look at money is that I don't view it as negative. I view it as inappropriate. For example, money could be very appropriate if it reflected reality. For example, if a tomato grew and the world would recognize that, and somehow that would tell you how much money is worth. So for example, the more production goes up, the less you need to pay to get something, because production is up. The way it is inappropriate today, they're not synced. Our capabilities is not synced with what we are capable of producing. So what could be in the future, in the beginning of the transition to a new world, would be, for example, let's say you have a city and it is fully sustainable, but we don't have this overabundance of goods. So there has to be a limit. And for example, let's say I have $10,000 a month, which I can spend as I want to, but there has to be a limit because there's no abundance. In this city, when technology advances and production increases, now my income becomes more constantly in connection with our capabilities. So next month I have 150,000, and next month 2 million. And then it doesn't matter anymore, because we reach such an abundance that there is no need. There is, I sometimes sit and wonder, what would you spend money on when you have your house, your food, your income, your everything is secured? In the future, you will go and get educated how to spend resources, because in today's society, we have been limited all our lives. Today, the greatest scientist, he still has to look at his budget. He says, I want to conquer the universe, but we have 2 million to work with. So all his life, he or she has been limited. And that's the way of thinking today. We haven't been brought up in saying, what do you want to take on? It's available, go for it. No, we are limited in our way of thinking. I am as well. If you would give me $1 billion, I don't have 20 plans. I would be like, a nice vacation to Thailand would be nice, and pay off 2 bills, and then it would take a while for me to say, what is appropriate? What should I do with this? But I think if you had given Jacque Fresco $1 billion, immediately he would start spending it to try to create something more appropriate. So he has been limited all his life because he didn't have the resources to do that which he tried to achieve. Regarding, yeah, sorry, Michael.
I think he's a great example, because he's built. He didn't need $1 billion to build his little model city to show people as an example what can be done. And true, it's not a mega city, but that's how things start. They start small and then they grow, and you don't need that. And that's another example related to what the other gentleman said about convincing other people. It's kind of not really up to you. It's up to you. Your own life is up to you to change yourself, and again, lead by example, which is why Jacque is a great example, because he did what was right for him, and now here we are still talking about him.
Yeah, I would say that he did what he could with the reality of the situation, and that's what we have today, David. The thing that you mentioned when people say, "What has the Venus Project done?" This is it. This is the reality of the situation. It isn't that we have abundance of resources and we're just sitting on it, and Roxanne is going and buying a nice Rolex watch to impress somebody. She doesn't have any resources. The only thing we have now is a great idea, but we can't do anything with a great idea without resources. We're limited in that amount. But to me, when they say things haven't happened, I don't think these people would ever be satisfied until they were forced into the city because of the abundance, and they say, oh, okay, I'm going. Because there is always limitations. And I promise you, when you build the first city, you're going to have a lot of people say, well, just one city? Is this it? This is the Venus project, one city that is fully operational and sustainable, just one. I'm not too impressed with that. So you're always going to have these problems with people saying, well, why don't you do enough? And that's where we say it hasn't to do with me or you guys. It has to do with what do we have to work with. The first city will be created by wood if somebody owns a lot of wood and donates to us. So you will come and see nice circular cities designed in wood. And they say, is this the future? No, this is what we have to work with. And that is living in reality instead of you should be doing this. That is a fantasy. The best people that I enjoy is that people come and say, I'm going to do this. No, they don't even say that. They just say, I did this. And then they show me the result. Same with this. Nobody told me, or I didn't say I should be holding sessions for people that are not so familiar with the subject or want to learn more. I said, I'm going to do it. And then just do it. We have some of those people, and those are the most important ones that just do things instead of checking and hoping that somebody else jumps aboard. Hey, Helene, is it Helen maybe? Welcome to the session. Let me know if you have any questions about the Venus project or something in particular you want to bring up. Hey,
Thanks.
hi. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi.
Welcome.
Well, I'm in Eugene, Oregon, and we have a big sharing community here where we're trying to do as much as we can money-free. So we have community gardens to eat from. We share, we trade, we swap. Oh, sorry, I got a giant dog here. Lots of pets. So we've been kind of working on the no money world for a while. There's challenges.
Yeah, I'm
as you
sure
know.
it is. Have you,
But we do have a really good community up here. So
can I just ask
Yeah.
you, how much have you heard about the Venus project?
a lot. I followed along with it for a long time. I've done a little bit of I've helped them on a few little projects occasionally, way back. But recently I haven't done too much in the last 4 years. We've been trying to launch our last group of foster children out the house. So we're kind of been swamped with teenagers. But now the last one's launching. We're finally retired from our careers and working on trying to promote the free world. And we taught our children all about the Venus Project and how money came about and how it's not useful. And I still have those conversations with people. So
That's great. But are the other people also interested in the Venus project, or is it alien to them, that subject, the people in your community?
I think that they think it's so far away from them, like it's an idea that's way down in Florida and they'll never go there and they'll never see it. And I keep explaining, well, we could actually do it here with what we have. So yeah, they're, you kind of explain it, you send them off to the website, you show them the nice films, but they think it's far away from them.
Yeah, it is, apparently.
Yeah.
They feel that way. And that's
It is on the other side of the continent from us too. So it's quite a long ways from us. We're as far as you can get pretty much.
Yeah, I was thinking more in the mindset, because when somebody says that, it is really far away for them. They feel, that's what I felt also in the beginning, that this is maybe 100 years or 500 years in the future, but really it is tomorrow. It is,
Yes.
It is, I would say it is overdue. It could have been done many years ago, because the fundamentals, which I would like to get into now, is that the fundamentals of the Venus project is the tool of scientific method. That is the tool that is needed for a more appropriate world. The problem we have with this tool today is that in capitalism, this tool is misused. It is used to benefit whoever uses it. They manipulate it as best as they can to get funds or to push their own product or their own agendas. So it becomes in between systems and people are confused. It's because they're putting a lot of personal bias into it. In a resource-based economy, this tool becomes appropriate because now I'm no longer in it for myself. I see the benefits when correct information is put out there, then I get the results back. So the more I supply with correct information about the world, the better my life becomes. But it isn't really working that way today. I like to push my personal agendas because then I see the benefits to my, for me. So you have to have a new game where it isn't personal gain anymore. It is a collective gain. And then they say, how will we reach decisions? We need to use the scientific method. Then we will come closer to reality than me being the leader and saying, I think Helena, she likes bacon and eggs every day. I feel like that. That's probably correct. The scientific method isn't complicated. It is just asking Helena, what would you like to eat for breakfast? And she says this and that. And then she says,
It's
Pejman,
coffee.
sorry, yeah, it's coffee. Yeah. I thought,
Coffee.
now I know exactly. And this is what it's about, to gather information to be more appropriate. And then Helena says, I'm going to go climb a mountain. And she asks, not me, but the system that delivers information regarding what is appropriate food to eat for having more stamina for climbing. And then she gets the best result at that time. But it isn't an opinion. There is nobody selling you a product and say, hey, eat this. I promise you, you're going to make it over the mountain and back up again, because they have a personal agenda. Then they're just interested in what is efficient food for rock climbing or whatever she's taking on. So that's the fundamentals of the Venus Project, which most people miss. And it took me many years to get that connection. I also thought it was about just money or technology, but there is something else in it. And what we usually talk about is human behavior, but most of you have seen something about it. Is there anybody that has something which they don't understand regarding human behavior, which Jacque talks about? Is there any area there in that area that you feel you would like to elaborate on, or would you like me to elaborate on?
I would say in that subject, I also have learned that some people talking about, free will aren't entirely right as they think they are. Like it's more complex than what a lot of people think. They're thinking in terms of fate or free will. Like it's either one or the other. And things aren't really this or that, they're this and that. They're multidimensional rather than singly, unidimensional as some people think. It's, so it's both really. But there are ways of seeing things, again, like how you define your reality is how you experience it. So that's why you have some people thinking that, oh, we don't have free will. That's the way they're experiencing and seeing things. Then there are people saying, no, we do. That's the way they're experiencing things. And it's sort of disempowering to suggest, and it's funny because they say that, and then there's a documentary, The Choice is Ours, implying we do have choice. And we really do on a fundamental level. It's just unconscious for some people. And so when you recognize that, it's more empowering. It gives you more to work with rather than saying, oh, my behavior is entirely not up to me. So that's another kind of issue that I have discovered with the way some people explain this.
The part with free will. It is a little bit like when you were talking about money. Same thing here. If you just focus on the particular word, then it gets confusing. You have to try to segment it up. So you don't just focus on one particular area. And the way we look at it is, for example, if I would, for example, you say to me, do something out of free will. And there's a domino stack here, and they've been stacked up nicely. And I push it with my finger and said, I wanted to do that. Now, for example, you suggested something and I behaved. And my experience knowing what dominoes do when they're stacked up in that has an effect. And my capability of understanding English also drove me towards this decision to push this. Because if I had been brought up, in a different environment, and you talk to me, I say, no English, then you get a different outcome. So it comes from an experience, and then you observe something. But if you just look at the moment I push something, and you say there is free will, then you get locked in a just a segment throughout all my experience, all my life, everything that has happened. You say there is it. Same if you look at a criminal, or what they call a criminal. I will take a normal example, a person that, for example, stole something. You say he chose to steal that. You're just looking at one segment of his life. It is when the more you learn, you say, I wonder what the circumstances were that he took that piece of bread. And then you find out, oh, he hadn't eaten for 2 days. Or he had been brought up to take whatever he feels like, because nobody corrected him. He's been stealing all his life and nobody caught him. So to him, it was just as natural as paying for it was to just put it in his pocket. And this was his experience. But to not get focused on particular things, that's when these things become very simple and nice. And you can put it in a box and say free will, human nature. And these two things always confuse me, because when people see something they categorize as free will, they say that's free will. And when they see something they can't explain, they say human nature, fixed. And these two contradict each other, but they're using the same words. They say here is free will, but here is fixed. And how can you have fixed behavior and human nature? So to me, it's a cop-out. It's a way of just saying something to make it easy for myself. I don't understand it. It's human nature. They're selfish. He's an asshole. He chose to be that way. Look at him. That's free will. So have that, that helps me a lot too. It's a way of just saying a word that really doesn't mean anything. It's better to try to explain the circumstances, how people were driven to behave in a certain way. And if you don't know, then you say, I don't know. I don't know what happened that this person did this. But I'm not going to say free will or human nature. I just don't know. Got some more people, I think. Guys, if you have any questions, you can put it in the chat for those that have the camera off. Or if you want to bring something up, this is your session.
I like to know.
Yes.
I like to know about because I mean it's very difficult to build a city without money. So and also we cannot avoid money totally. And maybe you mentioned it a little, but I don't know. I'm from Business University, and I'm also studied IT, as I said. And of course, I see that first of all, you have to have some customers you want to serve, and of course, that can be the citizen also. But also, you have to make a living somehow. How is all that thought through? Is it kind of like a closed ecosystem in this city, or and we need water and we need something electricity. So everything needs to be an ecosystem, and shouldn't it be ecosystems working together where the government even can be their own ecosystem? Or how is that thought of? And in my opinion, everything is an ecosystem, even money. So money in itself is not wrong, but money that is not, as you also said, not used in a sustainable way is wrong. And so I think it's all about using resources in a better way that is not exploiting resources or exploiting other people, right?
Yeah, I had a little bit difficulty understanding. Can you summarize, if you can, in one sentence, what is your question?
Yeah, well, the question is, of course, that we cannot avoid money, nor to purchase material, but nor to make an income. I mean, do we have basic income, or how do we actually make sure that we can buy things that we need, even food, but also electrical bikes or electrical cars and stuff like that? I mean, the city cannot provide all that.
Okay, are you talking now? Now, this is what occurs is that the problem I'm having is this a question about the transition to a new world, a new economic system, or are you asking the question, in a resource-based economy, how are we going to use the capabilities of saying, you can have this, but you can't have this because you don't have enough money? Are you talking about the transition, or about the future, about a resource-based economy that is fully operating?
Well, I'm talking about the transition, and but
Okay.
I'm also talking, of course, I can see that things can be taken over by machines. I guess even the Great Reset is about saying that maybe we don't have to work so hard, and maybe we have to let the machines do some of the work. But of course, the transition is difficult, and also how do we make sure that people don't die of hunger if they don't have any income and cannot buy food, or even a transport, some transport and stuff like that. So so the transition from the current money-based system to a no money system is almost impossible. But that's why I'm asking if money, there has to be some kind of exchange mechanism, right? And the problem is that we need some kind of exchange mechanism. Either it's Bitcoin or it's normal money, or what.
Okay. In the transition, if you're still in capitalism, if you want to do something, you need money. There is no question about it. Or you have a very rich person that just donates, says, what do you want? Here's 10 million tons of steel, and here's all the supercomputers. That's something else. But in the transition, as long as money is working in capitalism, you're going to need money to create something. That is, we're not talking about anything else than that. We're going to need, today, if we wanted to do something, we need money. Okay? There is no other tool. We can't just sit and hold hands and things happen. It doesn't work like that. Okay? So money is needed in today's society if you want to get something done. In a resource-based economy, would you like to know how it's done in the future? Why there is no? Okay. So in the future,
of course, the transition. I mean, also the will we get basic income, or what is the plan?
Sorry, Michael.
I just said, interjected briefly. It's a stepping stone.
Yeah, it's a stepping stone. This has to do, what you're asking, to me, there is no answer. It has to do with the circumstances. What is happening in the world and what is being given to this project? Because I don't know what the circumstances are, then I can't give you, here's the answer. I can only say that if we have enough resources to build a particular city, it will be as sustainable as possible for that city. So it's what we call a closed environment, that it is functional by itself. It doesn't need an electric grid connected to the outside. It has its own grid. It has its own food production. And as I mentioned earlier, if there are limits on how much capability we have to produce, then you will receive some sort of, this is what you can access this month. And then you say, why do I get so little? And it's not my opinion. We will go through every step and show you, this is our capabilities of production, and it's limited. We need improvements in these areas. If these areas are improved, your availability to goods and resources will increase. For example, if you have better agriculture, now you can have 10 tomatoes a day. You used to have 1, okay? Because we have improved in this area. So that's how it begins. But it isn't, I'm not tossing out the money. The city's capabilities decide what we can use. Just like if we would go to Mars, you say, why do I only get 1 potato? Well, we open the bag and say, we're going to stay here 100 days. This is the amount we have. It's not my opinion. If we want to survive, this is how we have rationed it. Do you have a suggestion on how to improve it? If I'm missing something in your question, let me know. Or if you want me to continue in some other area.
I would like to add something.
Yeah, sure, David.
Well, I would say that within this system, as you said, we need money, but we can use it to make a better system. And in some way, TVP is doing that, you know? Of course, the first, let's call it, and let's put it in the first stage, we have to educate, or TVP has to educate, give information about it, understand the project and all its phases that it has, okay? One of the most important, of course, is that transition. And if we are still in capitalism in that moment, eventually we still need money. But that will not be the goal. The goal is to pass the transition and then be on a resource-based economy when new rules or new moral values will apply. It will not have nothing to do with what we have now. So in some way, we have to educate ourselves towards that. And yes, it takes a little bit of time and understanding. Okay.
All right, thank you, David. Björn, did you want to continue? Oh, turn on your microphone.
Yeah, it's just a money system, and of course, you know, we come from a capitalistic world where we can buy everything, and actually, I'm also economically educated, so you know, the fact that each country have their own things that they produce the best way and cheapest also is actually a fact of capitalism. And it's very difficult for me to see how, for example, cars can be produced even inside a city. So somehow there has to be a connection between the city and the external world. But for example, the production of cars, but of course there can be things inside the city like transportation inside the city, but there needs to be, I don't know, it's just a little fuzzy for me how we how we need to bridge the capitalism with ideas like this, I think.
Yeah, if there is, for example, I don't mean that we can create everything. In the future, you can in a city because advancements of technology. Or you remove, for example, cars, you remove the need for cars. If you would have some other form of transportation where you don't need cars, then you have to replace them. Say, we don't want cars. Well, there is no need for them. We have another way of transporting goods and people that is more appropriate, easier. So we don't need that. Okay, so that's a way to get around it. But in the transition, yes, as long as we can't produce something, then we need to have a contact with the outside world and say, hey, we would like to buy this and that, and you have to have money. Or you have to have something that you can sell and say, here, we have this product, we're selling it, we're making money, because you're in the old game of capitalism. There is no jumping over it. You can jump and say, we're going to go and live in the woods and eat the leaves and the berries and just survive. And we can call it whatever we want, a resource-based economy. But that is not a resource-based economy. The first city is not a resource-based economy. It's just a city that is sustainable. Okay, if it was operating in that manner. But you haven't accomplished a resource-based economy. It is like capitalism. Capitalism, in one city, you can call it, that is how they're managing their city. But capitalism is a global system. A resource-based economy is a global system. When you have achieved it globally, then you have a resource-based economy. Everything else is a transition to that. As long as capitalism works and we need goods and services, we have to use capitalism. If we want to constantly evolve, you can reach a point where people say, hey, this is good enough. And they will get stagnated. They will stop and say, this is it. And the world will continue and it falls apart. And then you will have 1 million people saying, let us into that city because this world isn't working. And then this city won't work because they're going to force themselves in there, or they're just going to come and take it. So you can't live by yourself and have an appropriate city in an inappropriate world because they will take it away from you. They won't let it just stay there and say, oh, they're having a nice time over there. Let's not bother them. So you have to take the world on. You can't just neglect it, put it aside.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Capitalism to us, the way we view it, is that it destroys itself by its own rules, that they're constantly trying to lower cost in production. They want to increase their productivity. They want to get the cost out, which is people. Say, no, thank you, out. We have automated this factory. We just need Steven here to walk through, check everything is okay. And later on, they toss Steven out as well. Because now they say we have cameras and Steven, he sits in one place and is watching 25 factories where there used to be 25 people walking around and checking the machines. He just sits here and just checks everything. Later on, they toss him out of there. They say we have an automatic system that immediately never goes and takes a piss, never takes breaks. Immediately when there's a problem, automatically there will go a call out to the correct person to come and fix the problem. We don't need Steven sitting there monitoring 25 factories. He can't even do that anymore, and he's out. And don't think that doctors or lawyers or other people are safe, or engineers or scientists. They will all be losing their participation in capitalism. Today you have here in Sweden, where they sit and doctors sit and chat with patients. Sooner or later, somebody, if not already, I know some companies are doing, is that they're trying to automate the answers. So the person says this, automatically they get another, get the appropriate answer. What would 25 doctors answer towards this question? And they find it, say this is the appropriate answer. And then you have 25 people talking to a system, and they're getting their answers, and it's going fast and it's very accurate. And then you have one doctor monitoring this and signing off, reading it. He's not writing to them, he's just reading it. Says, appropriate, 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 appropriate. So suddenly you don't need as many doctors. And they say, thank you for your services. Thank you for educating yourself your entire life. There is no longer a need for you at this place. Go find something else to do. So, sorry, Björn?
Yeah, that's exactly true. But that's why I disagree with the technologists, because it seems like the technologists and engineers, they think they can build a world without human almost. But that's not, well, of course they could maybe, but I don't think it would be a fun world. And I'm trying, since I'm a business person, I try to say there's a human side of this too. There's a cultural side. We cannot kill culture, as they are talking about in USA, for example. I mean, if we kill culture, then there's no human. Then it will be hell on earth for almost. I mean, the culture is the first, then business is second, and then technology is third. And if you turn this upside down and put technology first, then we have no business, we have no culture.
Yeah.
No,
Well,
sorry.
Yeah, sure, Peter.
Page. Sorry, my name is Peter from Australia. I've been listening for a while, and I understand where you're coming from, but to me, technology, it's not technology that we need to be afraid of, it's how it's used. And I think they say it many times. So obviously, the way we project, or you're projecting the future, that technology would take over everything and there'll be no culture or personality or humans, is obviously how we're projecting the future could be based on our current knowledge. From what I understand, you look at technology from the 1900s to 2020, 21, the amount it has changed is very significant. So you could already say that technology has already taken over most roles or many things, and we've diverted a lot of our sense making to technology. But if you went back into 1900s and mentioned what we're doing today, they would probably have the same outlook as what you have now. Does that make sense?
Let me build upon that. Thank you, Peter, for that. Remember that when we say culture, and first off, Björn, I want to say to you, I promise you, if you stick with this, the things I'm going to talk about later on, it's going to become easier if it's difficult now. But if we take cultures, for example, you can't just look at particular things and say, hey, these things are culture. Don't forget about the other things, which most people ignore. If you go to Spain and they're having bullfights, that's culture. When you go to the, back in the days with the Nazis, that was their culture. They were pushing an agenda and saying, this is the future, this. And if you go further back, a lot of things in history, which we would rather not, say today, how inappropriate. Today, we are very inappropriate. And the future, when it looks back at this time, it will be like we looking back in time. They will say, oh my God, how inappropriate their culture was. So yes, there is culture, but don't forget those negative aspects of them. In the future, there will be a new culture, and it will be appropriate for that time. And I would say that the way we look at technology is that it frees people and says, what would you like to get out of life? What would you like to do with your life? Instead of saying, this is what you should be doing. And most of us have had that kind of upbringing. If you haven't, I congratulate you. How lucky you were that your parents said, what do you want out of life? And your teacher said on the first day, until the last day, what would you like to do? We have 10 things here that we educate you, but please tell us, what would you like to do? They don't do that. I haven't met many teachers. They say, this is the schedule. Please stop drawing in your book. You say, I like drawing. Say, no, 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 not here. Or I'm going to call your parents. And your parents, many people have that pressure. You know, this is what you're supposed to be doing. So in the future, it's a different world. They say, what would you like to take on? What are your interests? I would like to see the mechanisms of how a squirrel climbs a tree. That's what I would like to do for 1 year, just to look at that. That's great. Enjoy it. Okay, take that on with whatever passion you have to give you that capability. We're not used to this because we have always been limited with the pressure of society telling us what to do. So the future is it's very different. The world we talk about is very different. And I understand when people feel that we're losing something. We're losing something, yes, but maybe it's worth losing. You have to give me a specific thing that you want to keep, and then I can talk about it and give you a different aspect of it, of how I learned to view it. This didn't come to me in 1 week. This has taken me a very long time to reach this point. I felt like you. I felt like Persian culture is something very important, and it doesn't mean the same thing to me as anymore. It's just a culture that is as inappropriate as all other cultures, because they are based upon some people's opinions regarding what is correct, how people should live their lives. And the future isn't that way. Nobody pushes their beliefs upon you and say, this is the way. They show you. They say, if you want this amount of water here, this pump gets it there. They don't say to you, this is how you're supposed to do things. They just show you this is a way of reaching your goal. Let me know, Björn, because this is an important area. And I understand if people feel like we're missing something. I'll turn on your microphone.
No, I get the point that if each person do what they actually have a desire to do and study what they want to do, then if we can work together, then we can optimize everything. And I have been participating a little like that in Berlin, where we try to have both business people and design people and tech people together, and actually that worked. And I'm only amazed that the universities didn't understand this actually yet. And I have been running around between universities. Even I have been educated from two, and but they don't get it actually. They are competing against each other because the politicians put them to compete against each other. And I'm still amazed, that nobody actually understands that. What if we all learned a little how to collaborate between disciplines and between our interests and dreams? Then actually we could start building something, but not before we actually start dreaming together. We will be able to build something. I guess that's the people don't know how to get started. But design thinking and this background actually already says, yeah, okay, if we have some ideas, then we have actually a certain way to follow a process where we all can bring in some ideas and we can come up with a solution in the end. It's even described in what is called the double diamond from UK Design Council. And this is what I have been studying in regards to both business and IT development and system development. And actually, it seems like it works. It's just hard to explain people to work together in these teams, but the Venus project already suggests that.
Yeah, for many years.
Here, actually.
Yeah,
for many years even.
Yeah, and the thing is that, let's say that you're succeeding with that model, but the reality of the situation is that there is pressure. There needs to be results, because Somebody's putting some form of funding into it. They want result, because in this world, there's very few people that says, here's $1 million. Just let me know if something turns out. If not, don't even send me an email. Just here it is. No pressure. But most companies, even if they apply that, they have some underlying pressure that they have to give results. So imagine a world without that pressure. Just here it is, no pressure at all. Let's see what you come up with. Because we have the capability of taking care of everybody, can we improve upon that? See if you can take it on without any pressure. Every person that works in a resource-based economy, they're there because they want to be there, 100%. And they say, I can spend 1 hour, 100%, then I don't want to work anymore. Or I want to spend 36 hours, and you have to force them out because it's not healthy for them. So you give them suggestions regarding health and how much they can produce even more if they sleep, because they choose to be there. I think most of us have a hobby in today's society where we pay to exercise that hobby. We spend a lot of time. We don't make any money. I'm not making any money here. I enjoy being here with you guys. And I would like to see a world like that. Whenever you find a person doing something, you say, why are you here? Because I want to be here. I chose to be here. And please, if you can help me, but don't disturb me because I'm working hard on this. I'm here 100% because I chose to be here. That's the kind of world we would like to see. Nobody's forced into it. David, did you want to say something?
Yes, I totally agree with what you said. And I would like to add that to get there, we have to be aware that we have to change our current mindset. Our mindset in this new society is going to be different. It cannot be the same as we have it today. Of course, that implies a lot of education, a learning process, but we have to realize that we're going to need a new mindset once during the transition and even after that, because new moral values are going to be up to date, and new approaches and how to do things. And yes, we're going to have a different lifestyle, and we're going to have plenty of time to do many things thanks to technology that will take our jobs away. We will do a lot of activities, especially maybe education, sports, cooking, anything, arts, paint, dance, and everything or anything that we want. Of course, we have to realize that within that new society, our new mindset will push us to another levels beyond money or religious belief. Nothing of that will simply be phased out. Okay, so we have to prepare for that, and that takes a little bit of time. So part of that is why we're here.
Yeah. When it comes to changing mindset, it's nothing you can sit down and say, I'm going to change my mind. Because when you do that, you go through the normal way of thinking and you will reach your normal conclusions. It is when you see something different and somebody tells you about a different way of doing things, that gives you the capability of saying, hey, I never thought about it that way. And now you're changed. So the best thing, especially if you want to get into this, is to look at the material. That will change you slowly. And then you will have conflict with the way you used to think and the new way. And the more you learn, the easier it is to let go of the old values you had. And you say, this is it. Now you say, no, it's no longer. Just like if I would go to you and you were many years ago, I said, what are your values? You would have a particular set. And today you're different because you learned. But if you didn't learn anything from 20 years ago, you will be the same person. And that person to us is dead because that person stopped here and said, this is it. But the world, the way we would like to see the future and today, is to constantly learn and say, I need to reevaluate my values. Maybe I'm off. I know that 10 years from now, I'm going to do these presentations very differently. I'm going to speak about, have other examples, and it will be clearer to me. Hey, Catalina, this is like an open session. If you have any questions or something, just let me know. Hey, Catalina.
Yeah, hi, sorry. I totally forgot I was working on a project and I looked at a time and I was like, oh my God. Anyway, yeah, I didn't even put my camera on, so apologies for this. I'll do that in a minute. I just wanted to say that today I participated in a ULab meeting. So I don't know if you know about Presencing Institute with Otto Scharmer from MIT. The movement is quite interesting. So basically the U theory is the basis for this, and it encourages people to open their minds, hearts, and change the world together by getting involved in bringing ideas into this world, the same as Jacque Fresco did, being a visionary and with the Venus projects and everything. But now what I'm seeing, there are so many U labs across the world and so many movements. And I think this is a good opportunity to combine Venus project with that, because it's going in the same direction, right? Like bringing new futuristic ideas, or like ideas of collaboration rather than competition. For example, how companies, they can collaborate with each other rather than compete. And this is very much in the same lines as Jacque Fresco was saying, like distribute resources and then see the change as it happens, because when people have what they need, they won't have a reason to fight and so on. But the U theory and Presencing Institute encourages people to be kind of like to bring mindfulness into business, but not to the extent of just corporate responsibility, which is just like a band-aid, to actually come up with ideas for real change. And yeah, so I don't know if you.
Yeah, thank you for that, Catalina. Can I just ask you, how much material have you watched? I ask everybody that, just wondering, how much material have you watched regarding the Venus project?
Oh my God, are you kidding me? I know everything by heart for, I don't know how many years now, probably at least 10 years. So I have watched everything that I could possibly, put my hands on, and I, wanted to be involved in the project. But to be honest, like I didn't see anything happening online. And then when I saw this meeting, I was like, yes, something is happening finally, yeah. So I was like, yes, this is the right time, it's like the Presencing Institute. And now you guys are coming online and let's meet up and talk about it. I was like, perfect timing, So, yeah.
That's great. Can I ask you, have you bought the CDs from the homepage?
No, I have not bought the CDs. I'm not even aware that there were CDs, to be honest. I didn't check lately to see what's going on the website. But yeah, like before, there used to be all the movies, all the videos that were on the website, as well as on YouTube, on many mediums. So did you produce anything new? Because I know there were some projects going on at some point.
Let me just see here. No, they have a lot of material there. And I just want to make clear, I'm not selling, I'm not here to sell anything. I just want you to know that if you want to learn more, though the things, the lectures that they sell there are fantastic. They're going to help you with learning even more regarding this topic. So that's why I'm bringing it up. Peter, could you help me with one thing? Peter, could you get me that list with the Paulo, with all the, you know, the video
The
conference.
seminar one.
Yeah, can you post that one? Thank you,
do
Peter.
that. Yep.
Okay, Catalina, can I just ask you, what do you do for a living? Is that
Oh,
okay?
yeah, sure. At the moment, I'm a business analyst in technology, but really I want to use technology to help, you know, reconnect people with nature, like use the technology in a better way, like not in a harmful way, because technology cannot be used in a harmful way. Good technologies and like great, fantastic technologies, they cannot appear if the consciousness of the humankind is not there. So everybody fears technology like it's like some sort of a plague, but look at how many great things Jacque Fresco envisioned, you know, with technology. And so I'm a supporter of the Venus Project, Jacque, as well as technology. So I want to use technology for good, you know. One example is like predicting fires in Australia with AI, for example, or like IoT, connecting people after a hurricane, you know, things like that, that you can actually use in a practical and beneficial way. So
That's great. I want to give you something to think about, which might not be clear, but the way we look at technology, it's a tool. What is needed is the right circumstances to use that tool. So in today's society, if you prevent a fire, yes, you have done something, but what is the end goal? Where is society going? And this is our problem, is that when you operate on somebody's heart and you save that person, and this person later on says, great, I feel great. No, I'm going to give you this example. When they teach meditation to soldiers to calm themselves, that's great. Now, when they're shooting at other people, they're nice and calm and they can shoot more precisely. So this is the problem we have with advancements in today's society. What is the goal? Where is it going? Is meditation good or bad? What are they using it for? That's what we want to see an improvement upon. And to us, the organizations that are interesting is, are they tackling capitalism? Are they saying, can we go to another system? Capitalism, yes, you can fix certain things. You can put something in the water that pulls up all the, all the trash, let's say 100 tons a day. But this society dumps millions of tons. We would like to tackle that first and then say, let's clean up the oceans. But we have to change the circumstances that generates the problem. And when we have fixed that, and now we're going towards a more appropriate world, how can we clean all the shit we put into the oceans? But if you create something, it won't fix it, because they will say, oh, they're cleaning it, now I can dump even more. It's no problem. Just put it in there. They're going to clean it tomorrow, probably. So we have.
I totally understand, but my idea is to, if you show people, you know, the way, then they can see another way. But if you don't show them anything and you're expecting a miracle, it's very hard for people who are stuck in certain way to see any difference, you know. So that's what I believe. And there are a lot of people that are already awake and they've evolved themselves, you know, like at higher levels of consciousness. And these are the people who are working together. They're coming together and they're working together to bring change in the world. Okay, yes, change circumstances, but that might not be so easy to change, you know, at the click of a button. So it has to be from inside, like people like myself, like yourself, like others who are doing something, you know, they are bringing ideas so that others can see that there is another way of living, you know. That's what I think.
Yeah, and that's what we are trying to do with the Venus project. It's instead of giving, for example, a segment of improvement, we're saying, hey, what about a new world that could look like this, to try to give this complete vision, which so many people are lacking when they think about the future, because the only thing they see is, you know, here's the Terminator, here's the machine is going to destroy me and my family, and or I'm going through the universe. The example I always use, you know, the fantastic example of 2000 years in the future and we're still looking for a gold planet so I can make some money. You know, it's the same world, just with more technology. So that's what we strive for, to give this vision, so that when you take on whatever you take on for improvements, always have a bigger goal in mind and say, that's what I'm going for. I'm going all the way towards an appropriate world, not just one segment that is better than yesterday. I'm taking it all on. And this is what makes this project, to me, very different from at least all the other projects I have seen. That we don't deal with segments of society. We try to tackle everything. That's why I enjoy it. That's why this means so much to me.
I understand. I appreciate that. But the thing is, creating a new world, or like even evolving the world we are living in. A lot of people, they say, oh, this world is broken, let's just create a new one. And they have this like very negativistic way of thinking. They don't actually perceive this as part of our evolution, you know. You just say, oh, this world is broken, it's so bad, and this, no, it's part of the evolution. That's a holistic way of looking at it. And the thing is that, you know, we are all co-creating this. So, which means that it can go in a various, like in an infinite way of like infinite possibilities of creating the world in a certain way or another. So instead of trying to impose a particular vision, is the thing is we have to all work together to create that vision. Like, I'm not saying like Venus project has been in my heart forever, you know, and I would have loved to just like, okay guys, let's do it now, like, you know, start tomorrow. But you have to also consider that other people may also have another vision, you know. So I don't know, it's just like, it's a matter of choice, and it's a matter of all of us choosing a certain reality, and that's how it's going to go, you know. Like, we can educate with the Venus project, and I always tell everybody that I meet, hey, even on my Facebook page, behind, like, you know, the picture is with Venus. So it's always been my, how can I say, my action or intention to tell people, as many people as I can, about Venus project. But sometimes we also have to consider the possibility that it may be another vision that's going to happen. It could be better, it could be less, no, but it's a choice that people have to come together and do it, you know, like make this choice together. That's what I think.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Catalina. I'm very happy that you came here today. Can I just ask you, was it Chalmers in Sweden, the university that you mentioned?
Which one?
The project that you mentioned, was it Chalmers?
It's called Presencing Institute.
It's not in Sweden.
No, I mean, they're all over the place. They have U labs. Let me just give you a link. So,
yeah, I'd like to know about that, actually. I know Chalmers in Sweden is a kind of like supply chain focus, right?
Yeah.
But the ULab, actually, I'm very interested in what you're saying, Catalina, and I think I have the similar approach to IoT and AI as you are, because I was looking at this from IT University side, and of course, I'm trying to say that IoT and AI should be business driven, not technology driven. And it's very hard to find people that talks about IoT and AI from a business side even.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know, but that's because they think it's just a new buzzwords in technology, so they treat it like that, I guess. But I come from a business side, and I know it's a lot of systems that has to be put together in order to make any business, even serve any organization. So it's almost it's just about how do we put things together in a more efficient way, and that's exactly what we need the labs for, and design thinking agencies and all that. And you mentioned now the lab. So I'm all for that actually, and I do believe that we can actually make a transition from the current economy to a more sustainable one, because I've seen things like circular economy, for example, presented in Berlin, which included basic income. So so there are some building blocks we have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, we all have to come together and explore and brainstorm and then get into that higher mindset where it's good for all of us, and then see, because there are so many ideas we can come up with. So yeah, it's super interesting what's happening now. And yeah, I'm actually doing the course now, and we have the ULab session today, but it's ongoing, so it's all the time happening. So
do you think they would
Did
be
you send the link or
interested?
not?
Yeah, there's a link there. Do you think they would be interested in, is it possible to hold a presentation regarding the Venus project?
yeah, I mean, that's a very good idea. We can actually get in touch with them, like, what's going on. In this, after this course, everybody has to create a prototype. So Jacque Fresco already has created so many, prototypes. So yeah, definitely, like, it's worth getting in touch with them and speaking, like, getting in touch with Otto. Otto is on LinkedIn as well, just like, and there are some, there's another lady, but I forgot her name now. There are a bunch of people, but getting in touch with Otto, who is the initiator of the movement or the theory and everything, would be really, really good.
Okay.
Right.
Maybe you can send me his contact later, if that's possible.
Yeah.
I just wanted, there's a list in the chat with the more lectures, or they're like video conferences with Jacque. And most people haven't seen those. And it's for everybody if you want to save that, if you have run out of material to watch. And that's a huge list of material there that Peter put up.
Yeah.
Okay, so Catalina, this session is, if anybody has any questions or something that is not clear regarding the Venus project, let me know if you have any questions, something that you have listened to but you're not clear on. Let me know.
Yeah.
And also everybody else, do we have anything more somebody wants to bring up?
Yeah, I thought of another question, really. Again, dealing with stuff that I've learned outside of the Venus project, how adaptable is it? Like, if you learn about, because there's actually more advanced energy technology than what the Venus project deals with. It's been suppressed ever since Nikola Tesla, really. But as I see it, this stuff is coming out. I've learned about so many companies and individuals that are trying to bring this out, despite heavy pushback from the interests that don't want that to come out. But like, is it adaptable in terms of, because some of this stuff would render all of the things. It's great that it exists. It can be done with the technology you're using, the geothermal, wind, tidal, solar, all that can be done. But there is stuff that would render all of that obsolete. Are you guys open to that, like, sort of next generation or advanced energy technology?
Yeah, so the way you can look at what would be used in the future is that when there's a new technology, they don't look at the technology just there and say, hey, this one is creating more electricity. They look at it in a global way. And they try to take in all the variables, just like a company. If you just go to a company and says, hey, I want this computer for $10 million, they don't just look at the computer and say, it's really fast. They say, what use is it for this company? Do we need this amount? Is it more appropriate? So they take in the circumstances. The same in the future, but they take it in on a global scale. So when somebody submits an improvement, this won't be done by a person sitting and say, hey, I like that. Because there is too much information coming in at the same time on events all across the world. So no person can sit and make a decision. You have to have a system that can understand what is appropriate regarding the whole, going towards what goal at that time. If somebody gives a suggestion, for example, Catalina works on an improvement of something, she just submits her results. If it's appropriate, immediately something will be changed in the system without no person sitting and say, Catalina, I like her, her ideas are fantastic. None of that, nothing of that. There is no time. In that kind of world, immediately improvements will be made, not by people, but by a global system that is observing all events that we can monitor at the same time. How many plants are growing? How much oxygen? How much material do we have access to, and where are they at this moment? Is it appropriate to pull up, let's say, rails all over the United States because there's a new way of transporting goods? It will take in all of these variables and say, no, in 10 years, it is appropriate. It is appropriate right now. And then the system goes out and right that moment starts to implement the new. It will calculate those things, but it can't be done by people. We are too slow in this part. We can't take in those variables. And if you would say, how did you arrive at that decision to the system? It would say it would take you 100 lifetimes to give you all the variables. So we are not dependent on Jacque Fresco's design. That is the best we have to demonstrate what we are showing. But when it is implemented, the technology of that time would be implemented. This is one person's work of trying to find an appropriate city. Imagine the world working towards what would be an appropriate city, towards whatever goals the future has set to go towards. It will look very different or very similar, depending on what is happening in the world. I just imagine a world, imagine being able to somehow have gravity not function as it does on the Earth. You have a city that is has its own gravitational field. Well, okay, then you don't have to have a flat surface. Maybe you have a sphere and people are just walking up the walls because the technology gives room for that. And maybe they decide that this takes less from the ground surface and disturbs nature less. So this is more appropriate. And in the future, you will be brought up to when you wake up and now there's a person walking on the wall, you say, improvements. You don't say people are not supposed to walk on walls. Just say, something new. Because every day is a new thing, constantly changing your values. So if you meet a person, and you meet them 1 year later, it's a totally different person. It is today, you meet somebody 10 years from now, they're the same person, same values, same way of thinking. Very few people, you meet them and they're a completely new person. In the future, people, just like machines, will constantly change. People will change their views upon the world, their life, their interests. So you will never meet the same person twice. They're constantly changing.
We're constantly changing from moment to moment, by the way. Our cells are regenerating every moment. So what cells you had like 5 minutes ago, they're not the same as like what you have now. So it's all a regeneration process going on, and we are not the same. Like every moment we make choices. So these choices determine who we are becoming.
Excellent point.
It's important when you think about the future, think about it as a global. It is one organism working together in the most appropriate way at that time. The difference is that when the future looks back into a resource-based economy, they will know how come they did things that particular way. They will look and say, based on the information they had, this was their appropriate behavior. When they look at this time, they wouldn't waste their time because there is no way of determining what is going to happen, because everything is based upon opinions, based upon my personal bias, based upon where can I get the gains. I say something, but I have a personal agenda. You don't know what I'm talking about. If I'm in business, I say, it's nice to meet you. And I'm thinking, we're going to screw these people over and we're going to take all they have. So the future doesn't look back at this time because there is so much inappropriateness in how, for example, the city behind me, this is an inappropriate city. It is just things happening without a clear goal in mind. Just, hey, let's build a 10 storage or 100, or I'm going to impress somebody, say this is 100 storage, but it's 60. I just put something in the elevator, it goes up to 100, but it's 60. So the future won't be interested in this time because it doesn't make sense. Only when they look at, for example, calculations. How did Einstein reach, his conclusions? And they can see, based upon this, this is how he reached this conclusion. Do I need to know his name? Not relevant. Do I need to see the picture of him having his tongue out? Not relevant. Just how he reached the conclusion. So the future, you don't have pictures of people in a magazine. Steven created this. It is not relevant anymore. Just show what has he suggested and how did he reach that conclusion. Peter, did you want to say something about that? The thing you wrote?
No, I was just adding to what you were mentioning pretty much. That Fresco spoke of different types of energy many years ago. So if I believe it's more important to focus on the methods that they're promoting or suggesting rather than the specific energy types. Because even if we suggest an energy type of today, that will be different in 10 to 20 years. So what we've found is, what I believe is the main takeaway from TVP, the Venus Project, is that we use the methods of science applied to social and economic system, and whatever that is present for that day and technology-wise would be used. But if we use the methods of science applied to those areas, you're going to move away from opinions and invested interests and stuff like that.
We must remember that when Jacque, in the old lectures, when he sat with people and he said, in the future, you will have all the music in the world on a small, something. At that time, that was woof. The people back then were like, this guy is out of his mind. Okay. Today, we're used to these things, but that is not the point of the Venus Project, that let's say he was advanced at that time and now we have surpassed him. We have some areas of more technologies, but it is how it's being applied, which is the essence of the Venus Project, not the particular technology. That is the important part, so that we don't look at him and say, hey, this supercomputer in the middle here with the globe. Oh, how 70s. That is not relevant. What is it displaying? What is the purpose of that? That is more important. Can you display it in another way? Great. What is it showing? What is it trying to achieve? Those things are more important.
Yeah, I agree with you. And the same is, they're talking in the Presencing Institute about moving from an ego system to an ecosystem, which means that everything happens for a greater purpose, for the benefit of many rather than for the benefit of few. And that to happen, it needs to happen with each and every person, that they need to reach to this higher level of consciousness where they act from a different perspective rather than for their own benefit, or like creating useless technology when you create something with a purpose rather than just for profit or money or for different interests and so on. And there is a very good author, his name is David Hawkins. He was talking about when you kind of like move from the logical mind into the connection with the source and, past this ego mind, and that's when actual creation happens. Not when you create something from the logical mind and, trying to understand then things that are based on only on Newtonian physics and things that you can prove. Some things you can't prove, you just need to feel. And sometimes, like most of the times, like the greatest creations and inspirations are coming when you go beyond your logical mind. And then the logical follows, because mind is just a tool. Okay. So I just wanted to spin a little bit of perspective there on what you said.
Yeah. I'm gonna give you our view on that, how we learn to think about those things. For example, if I meet an organization that talks about we have to get away from ego and we have to become more conscious. Let's say I saw an article today that they're talking about we have to stop the use of robots in war and in police. Okay, so we have to become conscious. If the circumstance doesn't change, they will use them. Even if you hold 100 lectures and say, think of humanity, don't use this, and all of them agree, if it's more functional, they will be implemented. Even though people say, no, we can't do that. It is too terrible. It is too terrible to drop a nuclear bomb on other countries. When it comes to it, and if the people in charge, we're going to do it, they're going to do it. Okay, they're going to drop it, or they're going to do this, even if you hold 100 lectures, because they have their own agendas. So if you want to see a world without ego, the way we look at it is, how are you going to change the circumstances to get this result? How are you going to create a world so that people don't rely on their ego? You have to create a society where it's beneficial for me to assist you. Where I help you, you are helping me, and I see that benefit. So when I teach some child to swim and they improve, later on they love water and they start to improve things regarding water. And I get that back to me. That's how you remove that ego part. You have to change the circumstances, not to just, if I go to a lecture and they have, because I've been to many beautiful lectures where you almost want to cry because they're so good at speaking. But what are they saying regarding how to really go about it? We want to see changes in society that generates the behavior, let's say, we want to see. Regarding the second part, creativity, the way we look at it is that you have to have certain experience. I'm gonna skip it. I was gonna draw. Have you seen where Jacque draws on the board? Have you seen those, Catalina? When he draws something? Yeah. that is his way of trying to say, you know, you see two wheels and you say car, because you have had experiences that helps you reach a conclusion. The more experiences you have, the more you can draw significance from tiny bits. And you say this. And a person with no experience in that field says, how did you go from this to that? They can see that connection. So the way we look at it is that, for example, creativity comes with experience, but sometimes just working hard on it doesn't solve the problems. Sometimes when you relax, you go and take a shower, you're able to make that connection. But without the experience, you can't just reach a conclusion just by sitting and meditating. I'm going to learn French and I'm just going to find it. We can't find that. We have to have experience, then it can assist us in reaching a conclusion. Just to give you a different way of looking, I don't know if it was different, but that's the way I understood it.
I understand where you, and I respect and appreciate, and also the fact that you're sharing this. Obviously, we have very different views, but and I'm not talking about this, you know, brainwashing sessions where people go and meditate and all of this. It's about much more than that, and that only comes with a certain level of consciousness. And to reach there, it's a matter of intention and attention. And there are so many people that they have not studied, they don't have experience, as you say, in a certain field, yet they're tuning into this universal consciousness and they come up with solutions. How do you think that's happening? Because when you base everything from your experience, that's one way of listening. There are 4 different ways of listening. One is based on your experience. So you're listening through the point of view of your own experience. Second is open mind, which means you can listen from the perspective of another person. So you can see a different point of view of the world through the eyes of another. Then you have open heart, which means you're opening your heart, so you have compassion. And all of a sudden, your view expands. And then the 4th and the highest level of listening is transcendental, which means you're, you know, so open that you can receive these creative ideas. But you're at the level of like, nothing can happen if you don't have experience, or you want to make it happen based on the experience. You're never going to reach there because it's going to take forever for you to gain the whole experience that you need in the whole world. But by, you know, connecting with this infinite source of knowledge that we can all connect to, that's a different story, right? So that is my view. I mean, that's what I understand from a different level of consciousness and perspective.
You know, sometimes we have different perspectives, and it took me a very long time to reach this, is that sometimes we have to put things aside, that at this moment we have different ways of looking at it, and that is okay. We have to put it aside. Maybe in the future we get a similar way of looking at it. Maybe I change, maybe you will change, but at this time it's okay. You know, we have different ways of looking at it, and we just put it aside because you know, this particular thing is okay. We don't have to, you know, some people they find one thing about the Venus project and then they discard all of it. And I find that it's such a shame that just because one thing doesn't work, I have to remove all of it. So same here, just put it aside for now. Maybe later on we can see if we can find each other. Okay, guys, it's been 2 hours now, and I think that is enough for a session. So I'm gonna post, I always say I'm gonna post, I don't know when I'm gonna post a new event, but please stay tuned to that TVP International. group on Facebook, and you will see the events coming up there. Catalina, please, if you can add me to Facebook or something, that particular person, if you think they would be interested in, for example, a presentation about the Venus project, I would love to hold something like that. If you can assist me. Yes, did you join via the Facebook group?
The other, no, not sure. Let me see which one I'm on, because one was obsolete and I'm not sure which one. Pej, oh, I found you. Yes, I found you. Pej Parchami.
Yes, that's correct. That's correct.
Okay, I got it.
Okay, do that and we can talk later maybe about that.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. All right. Thank you all for coming. And I hope to see you again next time.
Thank you for
Bye.
hosting.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Well done.
Bye, everybody.